Welcome to Doctor's Insight. Could a 99% mortgage scheme be the key to unlock the door to homeownership for first-time buyers? Or could it be the trigger that inflates a fresh house price bubble in the UK? This is the question that's been stirring up a storm in the UK housing market lately. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel for more educating and informative contents that can shape your financial journey. Imagine this: a mortgage scheme that requires only a 1% deposit from first-time buyers. Sounds like a dream come true for many who have been struggling to get a foot on the property ladder, doesn't it? This is the concept of the 99% mortgage scheme that the government is reportedly considering. Now, you might be wondering why the government would consider such a scheme. The answer lies in the current state of the UK housing market. High interest rates and soaring house prices have made homeownership an elusive dream for many. The number of first-time buyers has plummeted to its lowest level in a decade. This is where the idea of a 99% mortgage scheme comes into play. By requiring only a 1% deposit, the scheme aims to make homeownership more accessible, particularly for first-time buyers who have been hardest hit by the current market conditions. But like every coin has two sides, this scheme too is not without its critics. While it might seem like a boon for potential homeowners, it has raised eyebrows among industry experts. They warn that this scheme could potentially fuel a house price bubble, much like the one we witnessed in the early 2000s. Not only that, they fear it could expose borrowers to unmanageable debts, casting a long shadow over their financial futures. This scheme, though potentially beneficial, has sparked concern among industry experts who warn about the potential risks it carries. Will the 99% mortgage scheme prove to be a boon or a bubble? The jury's still out on that one. But one thing is certain: it's a topic that's set to dominate conversations around the UK housing market for some time to come. What could the implementation of a 99% mortgage scheme mean for the UK housing market? The proposed scheme carries with it a significant potential impact on the UK housing market. The allure of a 99% mortgage is undeniable, particularly for first-time buyers struggling to save for a deposit. However, the scheme could inadvertently fuel a house price bubble, a phenomenon where prices for houses inflate at a rate far beyond their intrinsic value. The housing market is a delicate ecosystem, influenced by a myriad of factors, from interest rates to the overall health of the economy. When a scheme such as a 99% mortgage is introduced, it can upset this balance. More buyers, equipped with larger mortgages, could drive up demand, pushing house prices higher. This could make homeownership even more out of reach for those not benefiting from the scheme. Moreover, this scheme could expose borrowers to unmanageable debts. With only a 1% deposit required, many individuals may find themselves able to secure a mortgage that, under normal circumstances, would be beyond their means. Should interest rates rise, or personal circumstances change, these borrowers could find themselves in financial hardship, unable to keep up with their mortgage payments. The recent decline in first-time buyers is a testament to the current state of the housing market. High interest rates and rising house prices have made it increasingly difficult for individuals to take that first step onto the property ladder. The number of first-time buyers has fallen to its lowest level in a decade. The proposed 99% mortgage scheme is a response to these challenges, an attempt by the government to facilitate homeownership for those struggling to save for a deposit. However, it's essential to consider the potential pitfalls of such a scheme. It's a delicate balancing act, on the one hand encouraging homeownership, and on the other, ensuring the stability of the housing market and the financial well-being of borrowers. While the scheme aims to increase homeownership, it could potentially lead to an overheated housing market. Is this the first time that such a scheme has been proposed? Let's take a look at the past. In the history of the UK's housing market, various initiatives have been introduced to support first-time home buyers. One such notable scheme was the Help to Buy initiative, which required a 5% deposit from the potential homeowner. This scheme aimed to make homeownership more attainable for those struggling to save for a larger deposit. It proved to be a lifeline for many, allowing them to step onto the property ladder. However, the proposed 99% mortgage scheme is an altogether different beast. It's a far more aggressive approach, requiring only a 1% deposit from first-time buyers. This scheme is a clear indication of the government's intent to tackle the significant issue of homeownership head-on. So how do these two schemes stack up against each other? The Help to Buy initiative, while helpful, was a modest approach, requiring a deposit that was within reach for many first-time buyers. On the other hand, the 99% mortgage scheme might seem a tad too ambitious. The key difference lies in the level of risk each scheme presents. With a lower deposit requirement, the new scheme could potentially expose borrowers to unmanageable debts if the housing market takes a downturn. Looking at it from another perspective, the 99% mortgage scheme could stimulate the housing market by increasing demand. However, this surge in demand might also risk inflating housing prices, possibly leading to a housing bubble. This is a stark contrast to the Help to Buy scheme, which had a more controlled influence on the market. In essence, both schemes aim to make homeownership more accessible. But the proposed 99% mortgage scheme is a far more daring approach, venturing into uncharted territory. It's a high-risk, high-reward strategy that could either revolutionize the housing market or lead to a potential housing bubble. The 99% mortgage scheme is a bold move that goes beyond the measures taken in the past. What is the government's stance on this scheme and how has the public responded? In response to the concerns raised by industry experts, the government has remained somewhat enigmatic. While they have not outright denied the discussions surrounding the 99% mortgage scheme, the official stance is that all schemes are currently under review. This leaves room for interpretation and speculation, but it also underscores the government's consideration of a variety of measures to assist first-time buyers. The public response to the scheme, on the other hand, has been a mix of hope and worry. For many potential first-time buyers, the prospect of being able to secure a mortgage with just a 1% deposit is a beacon of hope. It represents a possible gateway into the housing market, a pathway that has seemed increasingly obstructed due to rising house prices and interest rates. However, not all public sentiment has been positive. Some have voiced concerns, echoing the industry experts' warning that such a scheme could fuel a house price bubble and expose borrowers to unmanageable debts. These individuals fear that the scheme would merely be a quick fix, a plaster on a wound that requires more nuanced and sustainable solutions. There has also been a significant amount of discussion on financial forums and social media platforms. The conversations range from potential first-time buyers excitedly planning their future homes to financial experts debating the potential long-term effects of such a scheme on the economy. Regardless of the differing opinions, one thing is clear. The government's consideration of the 99% mortgage scheme has sparked a widespread public dialogue about the challenges facing first-time buyers in the UK housing market. Whether these discussions will lead to effective solutions remains to be seen. The government's consideration of the 99% mortgage scheme has certainly stirred up a mix of hope and concern among the public. What does the future hold for the UK housing market and first-time buyers if the 99% mortgage scheme is implemented? A question that hovers in the minds of many. As we look forward to the future of the UK housing market under the potential implementation of the 99% mortgage scheme, there are several aspects to consider. Firstly, the scheme could potentially lead to a significant increase in first-time buyers entering the market, thereby increasing demand for housing. This could in turn push house prices even higher, creating a housing bubble. However, this is a double-edged sword. While it may lead to short-term economic growth, the risk of a bubble bursting could cause significant long-term harm to the economy. On the other hand, some analysts predict a return to growth beyond the current financial year. They argue that the scheme, if managed effectively, could provide a much-needed boost to the housing market and economy at large. This argument is based on the assumption that the scheme will be implemented in a manner that ensures sustainable growth, rather than leading to a housing bubble. The key here lies in how the scheme is implemented and managed. If it is done in a way that ensures sustainable growth and prevents the creation of a housing bubble, the scheme could prove beneficial for first-time buyers and the UK housing market. However, if it leads to a rapid increase in house prices without a corresponding increase in supply, it could result in a housing bubble that could harm the economy in the long run. In essence, the future of the UK housing market under the 99% mortgage scheme is uncertain. It could lead to a housing bubble and potential economic harm, or it could result in sustainable growth and economic benefits. The outcome will largely depend on the manner in which the scheme is implemented and managed. Whether the 99% mortgage scheme will be a boon or a bane for the UK housing market remains to be seen. It's a story that we will continue to follow closely. Like, share, comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.